Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Tuesday, it's the 17th of February. This video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. Well, it was a fairly quiet yesterday. The Nasdaq 100 was closed. All US market was closed due to bank holiday. So let's just very quickly recap. The Nasdaq index 24,500 is key support, but have a look at this. This is the future. It is selling lower below that level or very close to that level there on the future, and there is a risk down to around 24,000 where we have the 200 moving average coming up. S&P 500 also at key supports 6,789. A close below could push it lower to 6,720 area and the lower part of the cloud, so we could be under pressure there too. And if we're looking at the future, it is currently trading about 0.5% lower and indicating a lower opening, and there is a risk lower also for S&P 500, of course. The Dow Jones Index future still holding on above this rising trend line there, still above the cloud, still above the 55 moving average, and still positive sentiment, but could also dip lower if the two other indices are being dragged lower, despite the fact that banks are still doing okay, and also oil, and they weigh fairly heavy on the Dow Jones Index. In Asian session, it is now a bank holiday in China and in Hong Kong, so no market today in the Hang Seng, and I think it's closed for a couple of days or free, so that will be still the key support here, 26,264, that is should be observed. Nikkei, on the other hand, was trading this morning, quite a bit lower here on the future, but still we are in a bullish trend, but we do have some divergence on the RSI, so which is still positive, but we are quite stretched, so we could be to the weaker side here the coming week or so, especially if also US is trading lower. Moving on to the European markets, which has been quite weak the past few days. EUROStoxx50 a tad lower, and here pre-market we have the EUROStoxx50 future and CFD trading 0.6% lower. So also, well, we are still in a bullish trend, but as we can see here on the RSI, the strength indicator has been declining. So we also a little bit stretched on that, and we could see it setting back. But key strong support down here around 5,800. The DAX index, it's still 25,020. Tried again yesterday, but couldn't really do it. So that is a significant resistance level for a bullish momentum. If it does close above, well, and we get RSI back above 60 threshold, then there's a further upside potential. But it set back about 0.5% yesterday, and it seems to be continuing this morning. Something that is dragging on it is Siemens, which is of course a big component in the index, and it actually made a new high here Friday last week, but sellers took control more or less from the opening and sold out through the session, and it continued there. No, that was Thursday, this is Friday, and this is Monday. So it got hammered again yesterday because some analysts were out saying, well, it's not justified the price on Siemens. So massive move here, and back below the cloud, negative sentiment now so it could actually see lower levels. So that is quite a big component in the or reason for the European markets being a little bit weak, despite the fact that the banks has done fairly well. Siemens Energy, that has been on fire, or more or less for the past couple of years, really a strong move there, tripled almost, no, not tripled, up tenfold since it lows here back in when was that, 2023. So really a strong move there where it was trading around, well, actually €6, and now we were talking 163 level. But as we can see, quite stretched here on the indicator. We have the RSI declining. So if we could see maybe a top and reversal pattern, short to medium term, also medium to longer term, very stretched. We can see the RSI declining values, they might move higher. I'm not saying you should sell it if you own it or anything. It's just a warning sign, so be careful. It could suddenly turn around because it's been on such a phenomenal move the past few years. So really, really stretched, I'm just saying. Moving on to the FX market, which also been fairly quiet, but of course something has been going on in the Asian session. We have set back here on the euro dollar to the 61.8 retracement there at 118.25, very close to at least. So after being rejected there at the 50% retracement of this sell-off there, bounced up, and now we are setting back a little bit. Could set back to 118. I still believe a bullish trend on the medium term, but it will take some time, and it could be demolished if it moves back below the falling trend line here. I don't think it will, but again, you should never say it will never happen, because then it could, of course, it could happen. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, indicating euro dollar could push higher. Sterling dollar, from the early morning here, it's been sold off. Now back below the rising trend line there. Could sit back to around 135 support area. Then we have the 55 moving average coming up. We also have the other two moving averages, the 200 and 100, slightly rising. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, but it seems like we could sit back even more down to around this area here. So I will remove this for now. So just see what will be happening. Unless it moves back above 137, then it will resume uptrend. Euro sterling is pushing higher here now, back above the 55 moving average, trading around the 100. RSI very close to the 60 threshold. So if we get a new close above the spike up there at 87.40.45, and if RSI close back above 60 threshold, well, then there's potential up to around 88 area. Dollar yen, the bouncing has stopped a little bit, and when we're looking at the other yen pairs in a minute, then we can see it's how it's started to slide back again. So it's not the strongest support down here anyway, because we're in a negative sentiment. We are below the cloud, we're below the moving averages, and 55 is declining. So, but I did imagine we could see a bounce up to around the 38.2 retracement here at 154.35. But for now, it seems to be on hold a little bit. But let's see, if it takes out the peak from today, then I think we'll see a push up to this area here, maybe up to around 155. However, if it takes out the lows here from last week and a few weeks ago here in January, well, then we could be looking at the 150 area down here. Euro yen also could be challenging the lows here from last week, and it is not unlikely it will take it out, given the fact that we have negative sentiment on the RSI. We could see it down to 180 if we move back below the cloud support there and below the 100 moving average. Well, then maybe it could even continue lower than 180, and then suddenly we are down in this area here around 178, 177 in this area. So it also needs to get back above the cloud to resume uptrend, but for now we are actually in a bearish trend, lower low, lower high, and lower low. Could push lower there. Aussie yen, still above the rising trend line. Didn't bounce much. If it takes out the rising trend line, well, then we could be looking at 107, 106, maybe even down 105 here. But then we have the 55 moving average coming up. So I think there will be some stronger support in this region here around 106. but it is not unlikely we could see it there. We have been stretched for quite some time on the RSI, declining, so that has been a warning sign that we were in an exhaustion mode. But still, the bullish trend is still intact, but it's really under pressure at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it down here in this region around 106. But let's see, the sterling yen actually pushing lower. Is that a warning for the other yen pairs? I don't know. But the pound sterling is on the move also. So yeah, let's see. Just above the 100 moving average, 207, likely to be tested. Negative sentiment on the RSI indicating lower levels. So we could see it down to around the 205 here. The lower part of the cloud will of course give some support. But 205 is the next support if it takes out a 207. Aussie dollar, well, still in a bullish trend, higher highs, higher lows, and higher highs, and so on. But as we can see, the strength indicator has been declining, so quite stretched, short term at least. Let's have a look at what's going on the medium term. Also a bit stretched, but there's no divergence, so maybe a setback, and then we could push higher on the medium term. But short term, a bit of a setback, currently trading around the 38.2 retracement. I could see it sliding back to the 61.8 retracement there, just around the 70 level here. But then we have the 121 coming up, moving average, and below here 55. All moving averages pushing higher. However, if RSI pushes back above its falling trend line and we see it turning around, then we could see higher levels also on the shorter term on Aussie dollar. So, but also a little bit of cautiousness there should be taken into account. Dollar Canada keeps slowly bouncing above the 61.8 retracement. I think we could see it up to the 786 retracement here at around 136.77, maybe even all the way up there, but I don't think so. But at least up here, I think we should see it. The key interesting part was that it didn't take out that lows there. So, but we have all the moving averages, 55, 200, and 100 declining. So, and we also have negative sentiment. So the sentiment and the underlying trend is still bearish for dollar Canada. Moving on to the Swiss franc. Still in a bearish trend, but pausing a bit. We can also see that there's divergence here on the RSI. You can see RSI strength indicator is rising slightly, indicating a downtrend exhaustion, at least on the short term. So let's see what could happen here the next few days. What I will do, I will push this a little bit to the side, and then I will add also a Fibonacci to this one there and say, all right, could we see a bounce maybe up? We have seen up to 38.2, that was nothing, but maybe up to the 61.8 here at 91.65 and the upper part of cloud. It's not unlikely to be seen because this is also where we had a little bit of correction here early last week. If it takes out the lows here from yesterday, well, maybe then we could see lower levels again towards a 90.5 and 90 level. But it seems a little bit in exhaustion mode. Dollar Swiss, the downtrend hasn't resumed, so maybe we should see a bounce up to the 61.8 retracement there at 77.40, maybe even up to 786 at 77.75, but I'm not quite sure about that. But it is not unlikely that scenario could play out, given the fact that we also here didn't get a new lows. But there's no divergence on the negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating likely lower levels, and I think we will see lower levels on dollar Swiss on the medium term, but for now we are in a bouncing mode or a correction mode. The dollar index, more or less the same picture, and what I will do if I was a very short-term trader, which I'm not, that's my choice, could bounce up to the 61.8 retracement there at 97.29, maybe even up to the 786 here at 97.54. But also here we can see all the moving averages declining. It would give a pressure to the downside on dollars, on the dollar index. And if it takes out the lows here at 96.37, then expect the new lows on the dollar index. Little bit more action on the in the metal space. We have the gold. It is still this up here, 5,091. It needs to close above and especially take out that peak there. Then I think we'll see up to 5,340. But for now, still to the weaker side here, very short term, and could be to the weaker side here for the next a few days or this week maybe. However, we have the 55 moving average coming up, but we need the RSI to get back above 60 threshold to push higher. However, I think it's also being set back with the falling treasury yields in the US, whichever has come first. But at least that's what it looks like at the moment. So sitting back here, and we could sit back a little bit further, maybe to 47.58, maybe even down to 4,673, the 61.8 retracement of a correction of this bounce here. Silver also sitting back this early morning, and in Asian session it tested 61.8 retracement there at around 72.53. If it takes out those of the world, then maybe down here testing this 786 and the $70 again. So something to keep an eye on. But to really go into a full-blown bearish trend, it needs to take out 64 down here. However, we do have established a bearish trend, lower low, lower high, lower low. Will we get a new lower low? I'm not so sure about it, but let's see. To re-establish the bullish trend, 86.30. If it takes out that to the upside, then I think we'll see higher levels. Platinum, well, more or less the same picture, sliding lower, just above the lower part of the cloud. RSI testing 40 threshold, so could be key here the next few days. Will it slide back lower to 1884 and maybe even these lows here. But then we have the 100 moving average coming up, giving some support. Copper also to the weaker side, now testing the lower rising trend line there and 569.55 support. If it takes out that, well, then we are looking at 550, 553. Possibly 537. I'm not quite sure about that, but it's because there's fairly strong support down here also with the lower part of the cloud. On the WTI crude oil, the energy market, let's have a look at that. WTI crude oil, let's just give it a little bit more. So we seems to be range bound here short term with a bullish undertone, positive sentiment on the RSI, but it has moved back below the 60 threshold here down to around the 50, the middle, the median there. So let's see, will it slide back here to the 60 level, or I still believe we will see higher levels, but for now it's taking a breather. I need confirmation for it to take out 66.44. The spike up there to be taken out for re-establish. If that scenario plays out well, then we are looking at 70 plus. The Brent crude oil, more or less the same picture, above the rising trend line there. Positive sentiment if it takes out these peaks here, and especially 71.89. But it could first sign could be taking out that spike there at 72 for uptrend to continue. European nat gas lower again this morning, and I think that will be name of the game here in the coming times. We are back below the 55. We are back below the 100 moving average. We are back below. Oh no, we are testing the RSI 40 threshold there at the moment, and the 786 retracement. Will it bounce from here, or will it continue lower? I wouldn't be surprised to see it continuing lower as we are getting closer and closer to a spring here in Europe. But again, we could see a bounce so around these support levels. It's not unlikely we'll see that. The US nat gas also slightly lower, and we are trading around the $3, and I don't expect new highs anytime soon unless they say oil springs is cancelled in Northern America. Then we will see a bounce there, but I don't think we'll do that. I think we will see it continue sliding lower. Moving on to interest rate and yields, US 10-year Treasury yields continuing to push lower, and we could see it down to around 4% here fairly soon, maybe today or at least this week. I think really a massive drop there. So which is not bad for the economy, but it could also be a warning sign that the economy is not doing that good. So no need to have those higher yields. So really a massive drop here the past week or so. In Europe also sliding lower here after failing to push above 292, which we are happy about, of course. And the 272 is the next support. That's 50% of that entire uptrend there. Negative sentiment. I think we will see lower levels. We could even see it down to the 61.8 retracement there at 267. The support area here could be seen. The also the UK 10 sliding lower. And yesterday it touched the 786 retracement there at 439. Will it push lower and even push back to 433? That remains to be seen, but it is definitely a possibility. Also a massive drop here in the Japanese 10-year to the 786 retracement, actually dipping a little bit lower, and the 55 moving average here. So we have some support here around 212, 213. And we could pause there a little bit. We can also see the RSI 40 is being tested there. We are just above it. If it could, I mean, this is the key 206 here, 206 key support. Then we have really established a bearish trend. But short term, we are actually in a bearish trend, a little bit lower high, lower low, and lower high, and now a lower low. So short term actually bearish. I think we will bounce a little bit here the next few days, but keep an eye on it. On the crypto side, just trading sideways, so maybe wait and see. Still 60,000 key support there on Bitcoin, and 1740 here on the Ethereum. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day, and keep charting and be careful out there. Have a nice day.